You're listening to Pod for Israel. For more information, go to oneforisrael.org. Welcome to Pod for Israel. And we have again with us Dr. Golan Broshi, author of Rabbinic Judaism Debunked. You can find it on Amazon and many other bookstores. And Golan, I just want to pick your brain on some other amazing things that you've had, revelations you've had as a professor here, as a writer here at One for Israel. And so you have a few insights on Rabbinic Judaism that you've been giving us. Last episode really kind of blew our minds of that even a secular author. What's this book again?
Israel Yaakov, Professor Israel Yaakov Yuval, and the book is available in English. We can make it available, but again, his whole idea, his whole thesis is making shown that Christianity is not Christian. Christianity is Jewish, and Rabbinic Judaism is not Jewish. Rabbinic Judaism is borrowing from Messianic Judaism.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. So you had some other insights into Rabbinic Judaism that you want to share with us.
Yeah, and I want to go back to Galatians, because in Galatians, in the first chapter of Galatians, we hear Paul mentioning Judaism, and that's the first time in history that the term Judaism, and I can quote you from, of course you can read it in English, but I'm reading from Galatians first chapter, Galatians 1, and verse 14, and the term appears twice, and it says that Paul is saying about himself, I was going stronger, I was the best yeshiva student, I was going strong in the religion of Judaism. Yeah, but later he says, but God freed me from that delusion, from that false idea of Judaism. So Paul himself is saying, I was in Judaism, and he means Rabbinic Judaism, but God saved him into the true Judaism, the true biblical extension, the Messianic Judaism, the Judaism that is focused on the Messiah and not about the rabbis, or the oral law.
So where did it fall off track, and what sort of
so as we said, year 70, on the ruins of the temple, on the ruins of the second temple, there had to come something else. Now, what happened? Who governed the temple? Who governed Judaism? Who were the gatekeepers? The priests. But when they lost the temple, they lost the work. They lost their position. Enter stage, come the rabbis. They were the strongest sect. They had really good political ties. The rabbis, they were really smart, and they had economical ties and political ties, and they took over on the ruins of the old destroyed Judaism, on the biblical Judaism. So on the ruins of Rabbinic Judaism, on the ruins of biblical Judaism, came Rabbinic Judaism, a Judaism that replaced the priests with rabbis, as we said, replaced the temple with the yeshiva, and replaced the Torah, the written Torah, with the oral law. And what I'm working on now is a book called The Rabbinic Reformation. And the title is The Rabbinic Reformation, and the subtitle is The 7 Ways by which the oral law revolutionized the Jewish world. Because they did it by 7 revolutions. And we can go, if you want, and again, as I said, it's a little bit provocative, but nobody's afraid of a little bit thinking, right?
Yeah, we're good to think.
Yeah. So the first revolution, I just did the order, but it's not. You can mix the order. But the first revolution I talk about is making Judaism, instead of being an ethnic thing, replacing it with the making Judaism be a religious thing, a theological thing. If Judaism, until the destruction of the temple, the old biblical true Judaism was all about ethnicity. Who was considered a Jew? If you were a descendant of Israel, of Jacob, you were Jewish. Judaism was like a race, like an ethnic group. What the rabbis did, and it's an incredible revolution, they changed it. They said, from now on, Judaism would not be only an ethnic thing, it would be mostly theological and religious concept, which means that now the rabbis can make can decide who's in and who's out. Who is a Jew and who's not a Jew. So it's not enough that you were born a Jew. You have to become a Jew. And there's even a rabbi, a scholar rabbi, a recent scholar rabbi that says, and he's right concerning Rabbinic Judaism, he said, nobody's born Jewish. You got to learn to be a Jew. And what he means by that, it's that it's not enough that you have a Jewish mother or a Jewish father. You have to practice Rabbinic Judaism in order to become a true Jew. This is an incredible revolution.
And I would say there's some similarities in some ways, because like we would say, I'm not born a Christian because my parents were a Christian.
But Christianity is never an ethnic thing.
It's always been a religion.
Exactly. It's always been
a
a theological, a faith thing. But being Jewish is like being Chinese or being Swedish. It's an ethnic thing. It's either you're a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or you're not. But what the rabbis did is an incredible reformation. Incredible.
So here's where the hypocrisy is, though, because you know that if I come to make Aliyah with Jewish heritage, but I'm Buddhist, I'm a practicing Buddhist, doors swing wide open?
A Jew, a Jewish person,
a
Jewish person that practiced the Buddha, they wouldn't care. They would let you in.
Easy. Or what if I was just a total atheist?
They would let you in with the arms open.
Okay. So any other religion.
But if you dare say that you're a Jewish person who believes in Yeshua, the door is shut. You're out.
Wow.
Because they know, deep inside, the rabbis know that Yeshua is their biggest offender, their biggest enemy. They know it's either them or him. It's either Yeshua, the rabbi Yeshua, or countless rabbis, other rabbis against him. It's either him or us.
Because kind of in a way, he cuts out their authority.
And I'll tell you what happened. The law of return was changed by political struggle with rabbinic parties. What happened? The original law of return said if you're born to a Jewish mother or converted, you can make Aliyah. That was the original. If you're converted to Judaism or born from a Jewish mother, you can make Aliyah. Jewish mother, 3 generations back, even Jewish grandmother or Jewish grandfather, you can make Aliyah. But under the pressure of rabbinic religious parties in the Knesset, in the Jewish parliament, in the Israeli parliament, the law was changed. And now the law of return says you can make Aliyah if you're Jewish or converted, and if you don't practice any other religion, which means if you do believe in Yeshua, you're out. It doesn't matter how Jewish you are.
But
if you believe Yeshua,
we just said if you're a Boo Jew or if you're an atheist Jew, then you're Kol Beseder, you're all good.
And that's the hypocrisy that you talked about. Yeah, they have something. Yeshua is still a stumbling block in Israel.
So the world's only truly afraid of the truth, though, right? I mean,
now I'll tell you what they did. This revolution of making Judaism be a theological more than ethnic thing made it possible for Gentiles to study Rabbinic Judaism, and after they study Rabbinic Judaism for 1 year, they all of a sudden become Jewish. You know how it's called? It's called Giyur. It's called conversion. The rabbinic invention of conversion. They invented a concept by which they can make, let's say, a Chinese person lose his Chinese ethnicity and become a Jew, become Jewish by conversion, which is an incredible...
So again, we're not talking about a change of religious belief. I mean, that's easy. That's for us, as we become a believer, we're now followers of Yeshua. And as a Jewish believer, we don't leave our Judaism, we fulfill it with our faith in Yeshua. But basically, like if I was Buddhist and I became a believer, you could say I converted to Christianity or converted to Messianic Judaism, whatever you'd say. But this is different. They're saying that you ethnically change. In other words, saying that I am Swedish by bloodline, you're saying that they're saying this person who converts would be Jewish by blood?
Not only that, when he converts And conversion, it's not like that they did some magic on him or something. He just studied. He just filled his head with rabbinic teaching. That's it. He became a Jew, and not only that he's ethnically a Jew now. The rabbinic literature says that now this, let's say, Swedish guy that converted to Judaism, his soul was in Mount Sinai with other Jews when Moses received the Torah. So his soul is going back to the Israelis, that he was one of the Israelis that went out of Egypt.
Yeah.
And now concerning the law, the Talmud, there's arguments in the Talmud. What do you do with respecting his parents now? Because his parents are Gentiles and he's a Jew now. This Chinese or Swedish guy that convert, is he obligated in respecting his parents? Is he? And there's another issue. What about if his father died and left him the inheritance, but he's Jewish now, so his father is not his father, because the Talmud says if you convert, you are born again. You are born again into Judaism. So what do you do when you're a Gentile? You converted to Judaism. Now you're a Jew, and your father, which is still a Gentile, died and left you with money, with inheritance money. Are you? And you're the firstborn. You're his first son. You're the oldest son. Are you entitled of the inheritance or not? And the Talmud gives the answer. The answer is no, because you're no longer his son. Do you understand that? You're ethnically a Jew now. This is an incredible reformation, and it works only with the rabbinic theology. By changing your theology, you're changing your ethnicity.
And so you can kind of see some of the conflict that we had in the first church. In the beginning, as the Gentiles were, we had the first council and stuff in Jerusalem, and
what did
some
they
of the
say?
arguments.
What did they say in the end? Do Gentiles have to become Jewish in order to enter heaven? In order to believe in Yeshua? What did they say in Acts? No. Gentiles can be Gentiles and still believe in Yeshua. They don't need to convert, quote unquote. Yeah. This is an incredible reformation. And I'll tell you, and now what's the implication? That if the rabbis can decide who's coming in Judaism, they can decide who's going out. It's a revolving door,
right,
you understand?
Right.
So if you don't follow their practices, and if you dare to follow Yeshua, you're kicked out. You're no longer Jewish. You lose your Jewishness, and by law, you cannot enter the state of Israel and make Aliyah. You cannot immigrate to Israel because you lost your ethnic Jewishness by believing the wrong stuff concerning the rabbis.
Which, if you look through Scripture, you read about David, you read about his mighty men, you read about the different people that served in his court, and some of these people were Gentiles.
Yes.
And they just spoke, he's this Malachite or whatever. But basically that person was from that place. He followed God. He served God. He probably sacrificed in the temple, celebrated the holy days, things like that. But he didn't change his ethnicity at all. It was
right. He didn't have to.
So there's actually biblical, grounding for our belief more than theirs.
So remember that we have the book of Acts is hundreds of years earlier than rabbinic literature. So we have a question: what do you do with Gentiles that want to share the Hebrew faith of Yeshua, the Jewish faith of Yeshua the Messiah? What do? They can keep being Gentiles. We have the same question in the rabbinic realm, and the rabbinic says, no. They have to become Jews in order to have the rabbinic faith, to have the Jewish so-called faith. So we have one party, Messianic Jews, that says, no, the Gentiles, you don't need to become Jews in order to share our faith. And we have the other party, the rabbinic sect, the rabbinic cult, that says, if Gentiles wants to share our faith, they have to become Jewish. But how do you make a Gentile Jewish? By changing his thoughts. You're going to put new ideas in his head, and all of a sudden you have a Gentile, a convert to Judaism. He's no longer a Gentile, he's Jewish.
It's interesting. What's some of the other points you had?
And another point, but I just want to make clear one more thing concerning this conversion, and this is that And you got to listen even behind the lines, between the lines, because this is really important. The conversion, now scholars are talking about the rabbis as missionaries, the missionaries of the rabbinic faith. Now there's the rabbinic sect did mission stuff, conversion stuff towards Jews, to convert Jews into their sect, and the rabbinic and the rabbis did also mission trips to Gentiles to convert them, and so when they witnessed to Jews to come into their sect, they didn't have to convert them. When they witnessed to Gentiles, they said you have to go through conversion. So the first missionaries were the rabbis. The rabbis were missionaries, and their mission to the Gentile were through conversion, through the Giyur. That was the branch of doing the missionary work in the Gentile work.
Which there's no problem in that. In fact, it was referred to many times, and it was the calling of Israel to be a light to the nations.
Exactly, but what do? They call us missionaries. But the rabbis are the biggest missionaries in the world.
Exactly. So if you say anything to an Orthodox person, you guys are missionaries. If Yad L'Chaim, who hangs out below our place, if he said, "Hey, you guys doing great as missionaries for this," they would get very offended.
I always say to my brothers and sisters in Christ that we have to learn from the best missionaries in the world, the rabbis. They're doing some really heavy stuff, missionary work. They know their work,
I mean, shouldn't be ashamed of that. That's you're going up, but the hypocrisy is that to them it's a curse word that they call us as missionary, whatever, But basically, this is what they've been doing for thousands of years.
From 2,000 years, they had two branches of missionary. The rabbis, in-house missionary, converting Jews to their sect, and outside missionary work to the Gentile by conversion. So in-house missionary work and outside missionary work to the Gentiles. That was the rabbis. That was, and maybe the rabbis learned it from the disciples of Yeshua. But the disciples of Yeshua never converted anybody. They didn't say to a Gentile that he has to be a Jew now in order to enter heaven. No way. He only has to follow the Messiah. But in the rabbinic mindset, you have to become a Jew in order to practice their idea of true Judaism, which is Rabbinic Judaism, which has nothing to do with biblical Judaism.
Which, if we're to bring it home, the core of our faith is not circumcision.
Nope.
It's not rituals that we practice. It's faith in Yeshua, faith in the finished work of our Messiah.
There's a scholar, there's a religious scholar, mind you, a religious scholar that is calling Jews now, rabbinic Jews. He says, you're no longer in the diaspora. You're no longer in the outside world. You're in Israel. Stop acting like Gentiles. Act like Jews. A rabbinic doctor, which is religious doctor, he's calling his brothers and sisters, the Orthodox community. He's saying this is not true Judaism. True Judaism has nothing to do with all these rabbinic rituals. He says we got to embrace true Judaism, which is focused on the on love your neighbor as yourself. And an Orthodox scholar, he's saying he's rebuking his own camp. And he's saying this is not the true Judaism. This is not the biblical Judaism. Rabbinic Judaism doesn't follow the Bible. So again, I want to encourage every Christian that listens to us and say, you embraced the true Jewish faith. You have the Jewish faith. You embraced it. You don't need to convert. You can be Chinese, you can be American, you can be Swedish, and still have the Jewish authentic faith only through the Messiah Yeshua.
It's beautiful. Well, thank you, Dr. Broshi, and appreciate your time on the show.
Yeah, I would love. We have more time to. This is only the first revolution. There's 6 more.
Wow. So we have a lot more sessions to do. All right. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Have a great week.